Hello and welcome back to the second video of instrumentation. We will continue from the previous video what we have learned. The next third component of your instrumentation is your sample cell. We many times call it as a cuvettes. The cell or cuvettes are used for handling liquid samples. The cuvettes can hold the liquid. They are available in various sizes. They can hold the solid or they can hold the gases also. The cell may either be rectangular or cylindrical in nature. Rectangular cells are commonly utilized. Quartz or fused silica is required for UV region. That if you are below 350 nanometer, you should go for quartz or silica cuvettes only. Okay, so this is the practical aspect. When you are doing the practical, you have to be very careful that which region you are working. If you are working in UV region, you have to go for quartz cuvettes only. Silicate glass can be employed in region between 350 and 200 nanometer, that is in the visible region. Nowadays, the plastic containers are also available. Disposable plastic cuvettes are also available to work within this region. The surface of absorption cell must be kept clean. Okay, so there are two surfaces you can see on the cuvette. One is your ground surface and another one is your polished surface. Okay, so this clean surface where the radiation get transmitted, and you have to hold the cuvette by using this ground part of the cuvettes. You have to face this ground part towards you so that the radiation will pass through the transparent. So many times you may not get the absorbance. That is wrongly you are keeping the cuvette into the path of instrument. No fingerprints or blotches should be present on the cell. So whenever we are keeping this cavity in the instrument, you have to wipe up with the soft tissue paper. Okay, you can use the tissue paper, but it should be soft. So very carefully you have to handle, because these are the match pair. If one is broken, you have to pay for the breakage of both the caveats, and they are very costly. So you have to manage handling these caveats very well. Okay, so you have to hold in such a way that they will not fall down, and again there will be no scratches on the surface. When you are washing also, you should wash it the distilled water. Don't use any harsh chemicals to wash, such as a chromic acid solution or some sulfuric acid solution. Only use either water, distilled water, or dilute alcohol or acetone. That is sufficient. If staining is there, then you have to be carefully wash the cell caveats, sample compartment caveats. So they are available in the different sizes and different path length. Generally, 1 centimeter path length is commonly utilized. And what is the capacity of this caveats? Okay, so how much sample they can hold, that is you have to find. The next one is the detector. Okay, sample holder. After sample holder, there is a detector, or sometime it is called as a transducer. Devices which converts light energy into the electrical signal that are displayed on readout devices are called as a detector. The transmitted radiation falls on detector, which determines the intensity of radiation absorbed by the sample. The following type of detectors are employed in instrument of absorption spectrophotometers. Okay, either we are using barrier layer cell, that is called as a photovoltaic cell, or we are using phototubes or photoemissive tubes or photomultiplier tube, or certain diode array detectors for the purpose of the detection of the radiation. Certain ideal requirements of detectors, whatever detectors we are using, it should give quantitative response. How much radiations are falling, that much electrical signal should be produced. It should have high sensitivity and low noise ratio. High sensitivity means even if a small radiations are falling on it, it should check, or it should detect those radiation. And low noise level, noise is related to the stray radiations. Okay, unwanted signals which are produced, that is called as a noise. Okay, it is it should produce a very small noise, or there should not be no noise when you are using such type of the detector. Should have short response time. As soon as the radiation falls on detector, it should produce the signal. Exhibit a fast response, that is short response time or fast response. It should have zero output signal in absence of illumination. Okay, due to the heating it may produce, or due to the some other reason, if itself produce the signal, then that will interfere. So it should have the zero output signals in absence of illumination. It should provide signal on or response quantitative to the wide spectrum of radiation received. Two types of detectors generally we are using. One is responding to the photon, another one is responding to the heat. Photon responding detectors we are commonly utilizing in all spectroscopic technique, and heat sensing detector or heat responding detectors are used in the IR spectrophotometers. All photon responding detectors are called as a photoelectric or quantum detector because this quantum energy is used for the detection purpose. Therefore, they are called as a quantum detectors also. So first detector we'll see as a barrier layer cell, or that is also called as a photovoltaic cell. Okay, so old instrument they all uses this barrier layer cell as instrument. Okay, so if you have seen some solar panels, okay, so there even in your calculator you have seen this solar panel is there on the surface, and that is working in the principle same as that barrier layer cell. The detector has a thin metallic layer. You can see this, there is a thin metallic layer coated with the silver or gold and act as a one electrode. It also has a metal base plate. Okay, so this is iron plate. It is called as a metal base plate, which act as another electrode. Okay, these two electrodes are separated with the semiconductor layer of the selenium. There is a certain semiconductor material are coated or sandwiched between these two plates. Okay, so this device is then uh, placed into a evacuated envelope, either of the plastic case or glass. Okay, so this is again protected by a surface glass. This surface glass will not allow the water or some other material to enter. Okay, so these are called as a photovoltaic cells. Okay, so it is having positive and negative terminals, it is to be connected. When light radiation falls on this selenium layer, okay, so this layer from this window, when the light radiations are fall on the selenium layer, electrons become mobile and are taken up by the transparent metal layer. Movement of the electrons will take place. This creates a potential difference between two electrodes and causes the flow of current. So how much current is flowing, that is equals to the amount of radiation falling onto the surface. Okay, so that is quantitatively we can use to detect how much radiations are falling. It is used in visible region, has a maximum sensitivity at about 550 nanometer. Okay, so this barrier layer cells are generally useful in the visible region. So second device use is known as a phototubes or vacuum phototubes. Okay, these are the like similar old instrument we are using the wall system was there. So similar as such vacuum phototubes are used in the instrument. It consists of a cylindrical cathode and a wire anode sealed inside a evacuated transparent envelope. Okay, so this is a cell or envelope where a semi-cylindrical plate is there and a wire anode is placed. Okay, so these two are placed at a specific distance. The concave surface of electrode supports a layer of photoemissive material that tends to emit the electron when it is irradiated. When this radiation falls, see this, when the radiation falling on this semi-cylindrical surfaces, which is coated with the photoemissive material. Okay, so specific photoemissive materials are coated on the surface that causes formation of electron, and these electrons are captured by this wire anode which is in front of this semi-cylindrical surfaces. The emitted electron flow to the wire anode generating a photocurrent that is equals to the amount of radiation falling on it. This result in increase of potential applied across this electrode. So generally this electrode is placed at 90-volt DC supply. They produces a small dark current that results from thermally induced electron emission. So this can be overcome by providing cooling mechanism to these detectors. Okay, so that is the limitations of these phototubes. Then this was only using the single phototube. Okay, so a limited current will be produced. Now it has been modified to use as a photomultiplier tube. Okay, instead of using single phototube, here photomultiplier tube uses many such phototubes in a single envelope. Okay, used to measure of low radiant power. The photocathode surface is similar in composition to surface of the phototubes. Here also a semi-cylindrical surfaces which is coated with the photoemissive surface material is used. The tube contain additional 9 such electrode. Okay, so, such semi-cylindrical uh, 9 electrodes are fixed into the detector, and they are called as a diodes. Okay, so as such 9 electrodes are called as a diode. The first diode is maintained at 90 volt, and the subsequent diodes are kept 90 volt more than the previous one. Means if first is at the 90 volt, second is at the 180 volt. In that way, every 90 volt differences are there within this 9 diodes. Electrodes are accelerated towards it on striking of the photon. The electrons are accelerated toward the second diode, which is 90 volt more positive than the diode 1, resulting in emission of several electrons. Means one will doubles the electron on the second surface will again double the electron on the third surface. In that way, a cascade of electron can be produced by this bombardment of the single photon. This process is repeated 9 times, resulting in 10 raised to 6 to 10 raised to 7 electrons formed for each incident photon. These are finally collected to the wire anode, as we have seen in there also. The current then electrically amplified and measured. See the basic principle how they are working. So this is the cross-sectional area. Okay, this is TS and this is LS. You can say trans transfer section of this electrode. See, this is the first first diode. It is called as a electrode. Okay, so the first electrode, when the radiation enters, they falls onto the first electrode, then they are reflected and a cascade of beam is produced. See here we can understand it very well. So this is the first semi-cylindrical surface. This is incoming photon energies. One photon will be bombarded, resulting into the formation of electron. These electrons are further bombarded. Two electrons are further bombarded onto the third surface dynode. It will be further bombarded onto the fourth. In that way, it used to continue to bombard for the 9 time. And see, you can see at the anode, a cascade of electrons are reaching towards the detector. So it is giving a powerful signal for a single photon. Okay, so such type of the devices are still used in many instruments. They are highly sensitive to UV and visible radiation, gives fast response. Their performance can be enhanced by cooling. Here also, as phototubes, they after heating, they may produce the stray radiation or noise, and that can be overcome by cooling process. This cannot be used for measuring intense light. Many intense light are used. Nowadays, the instruments are using the laser beams. Anyone know what is the long form of laser? LASER, light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. Okay, any light, any red light means if it is visible light, it can be converted to the laser beam. If it is UV light, that can be also converted to the laser beam. So that is the amplification technique, which is giving a strong signal or strong source. So this is the modified form of the sources which are used in the new instrument, rather than some tunable lasers are used, carbon dioxide tunable lasers. They can produce the different radiation energies. So these lasers also has applications in other such as operations. Okay, laser technique are used for certain operations also. Okay, so this is the modified form of the sources. Then this is about your photomultiplier tube. Now we will go towards the photoconductivity detector. Change in conductivity of the circuit. Initially, the circuit is kept at a particular conductivity showing the zero in the galvanometer. As soon as the radiation falls on the detector, there is a formation of holes and electron which will migrate through the circuit, and the bridge will get disbalanced. To balance this bridge, we had to again rotate, and we have to come to the zero position. That is called as a null point instruments. They are old instrument. So this null point instrument detectors are used as a conductivity. Change in conductivity is caused due to the bombardment of the radiation. A crystalline semiconductors are formed from sulfide metals like lead, cadmium, gallium, and indium. Absorption of radiation by this material promotes their bounded electrons into the energy state in which they are free to conduct the electrical current. This result in change in conductivity can then be measured with the circuit. Okay, so such type of the detectors are used, known as a photoconductivity detector. Lead sulfide is the most widely used photoconductive materials, most sensitive detector for near IR region. It can be used up to far IR region by cooling to suppress the noise arising from the thermally induced energies. So they are photoconductivity detector. And the last one is your silicon photodiodes. Okay, so these are the diode type of the material. They are having the combinations of this p type material and n type material. Okay, so all of you know that semiconductors, two types of semiconductors are there: p type semiconductor and n type. Okay, so outermost orbital, whether we are adding the impurities. Okay, so this is all the theoretical part which you are knowing. So there is a formation of a p-n junction when such two p type of the material and n type of material are mixed together in the diode. There is a formation of a p-n junction. That is a boundary where the conduction of this current can take place. They consist of reverse bias PN junction formed on a silicon chip. This reverse bias create a depletion layer that reduces the conduction of junction to nearly zero. Okay, initially the circuit is kept in the reverse bias condition. Now, when the radiation are fall on this PN junction, resulting into the formation of holes that is positive charge, and electron, negative charge. These holes and electron will migrate through this semiconductor layer and they break this junction. Okay, they break the PN junction, resulting in flow of current through the PN junction, and a current will be produced which is equal to the amount of radiation which is falling on this PN junction. So they are more sensitive than vacuum tube but less sensitive than photomultiplied tube. So these are called as a silicon photodiodes. These are certain silicon photodiodes which are used in our instruments. Also we are having such type of the detectors, silicon photodiodes. So this is all about the detectors which are used in the instrument. Now up to fourth component we have completed. The first component was source. The second component was wavelength selector. The third component was your sample holder. Fourth component was your detector or transducer. And the fifth component is a signal processor and a readout unit. Okay. The signal processor includes amplification of electrical signal. So certain signal we get from the detector, many time it needs to be amplified. It needs to be converted from DC to AC, AC to DC. So this alteration of signal is required. They are also called as a they are also called to perform mathematical operations on signal as a diffraction, integration, or conversion to the logarithm. Okay, some logarithmic conversions are done, so this can be automatically done by the instrument because we are measuring the transmittance, and transmittance can we can read the reading as absorbance. Okay, so the scale can be calibrated in such a way, even if it is a deflecting needles on the below part, we can see the deflecting OD scale. OD, that is a, optical density, and that is nothing but the um, absorbance. Okay, so we can see the transmittance scale and OD scale together. So these are called as a signal processors, and the readout unit. The readout unit converts the electrical signal to the readable form. Okay, old instrument uses the deflecting needles. Then they were replaced by the CTRs, cathode ray tubes, like TV ray, and TVs were used where the signal can be observed. Now they are all converted to the digital meters, and now we are having some sophisticated LEDs to display the outcomes of any instrument. So these are the modifications in the instruments. So readout device include digital meter, scales of potentiometer, recorder, or cathode ray tubes. Okay, so these are basic 5 components which are generally used in the sequence as we are learned. But in modified equation instruments, this is change. Many times the mm, detector is placed, or the sample holder is placed immediately after the source, and the detector is placed after, or monochromator is placed after the wavelength. Monochromators or wavelength selector are placed after the sample holders. Okay, so these are in the modified instruments. Now we will have one thought in mind, that what are the various types of the spectroscopic instruments available. We have studied this in our previous lecture also. Some names or some confusing things what we have studied. Spectrophotometer, you just think on these all instruments. You take your notebook, note down your response in the notebook, list out what instruments you are knowing, and check the response after you finishes. Now, I think that all of you have completed your job. Play the video and see the response. So we have photometers. What do you mean by photometer? An instrument that measures the intensity of light or the relative intensity of pair of light. It utilizes filters to isolate narrow wavelength of the regions. So they are also called as a filter photometer, because the wavelength selection is done by using filters. So many times we are using this term photometers or filter photometer or electrical photometers. Electrical detectors are used, therefore it is a electrical photometers. When initially they are using the naked eyes to compare the colors. Okay, so there are also the comparators for pH. As we are comparing the color, naked eyes we can use to compare the color. Here also we can have certain electrical detector to compare the signal, or that is nothing but the color. So they are the photometer. If they are using filters for the purpose, they are called as a filter photometer. The second instrument, that is spectrophotometer. What is the difference? Okay, an instrument measure the radiation uh, or function of the two of radiation power of two, okay, beam, electromagnetic beam, over a large wavelength region. It utilizes the um, monochromators. Either we are using prism monochromators or Gritting monochromator instead of filter to scan large wavelength range. Such of the instruments are called as a spectrophotometer. If you are using filters, it is a filter photometer. If you are using monochromators, it is a spectrophotometers. Understood? Then comes the colorimeter. Generally, for the visible range, we are having colorimeter instruments which measures the visible range. An instrument which is used for measuring absorption in visible region is called as a colorimeter. Then single beam instruments and double beam instruments. We have studied two types of instruments we can have: spectrophotometer, single beam spectrophotometer, and double beam spectrophotometer. So what is the difference between these single beam instruments and double beam instruments? Just we'll see. See, this is a block diagram of single beam instrument. In many colleges, such type of the single beam instruments are available. As we have studied the 5 components, here also there are the 5 components: source, then wavelength selector, either we are using filters or monochromators. Okay, so there will certain wavelength selectors are there. Then sample holders. Okay, here you can see two sample holders are there. One is with the reference cell and another one is your sample cell. Reference cell means solvent. It is not second reference. Reference is generally considered as a solvent cell and your sample cell, because we don't want interference of your solvent. So in all determinations, we have to nullify the effect of solvent by adjusting the parameters of instrument. So we have either we have single cuvette where we can replace the solvent and your sample, or we can have two match pair of cuvette which can be rotated in path of radiation. Okay, so first we can keep the reference cell into the path, then we can replace the reference cell, or we can move the sample cell into the path. Okay, then the detector, amplifier and readout unit. So one more thing you are observing here as a shutter. So what is the use of shutter? Because measuring with the single beam instrument involves just three steps. First, we are adjusting the detector to read 0% transmittance by keeping the shutter in the path. Okay, the instrument is designed in such a way that there no light should reach to the detector. Either we can keep the shutter or we can have the black coverts into the path. Okay, certain black coverts may be provided in old instruments. So this shutter will not allow any radiation, where we can adjust the instrument to read the 0% transmission. Then we keep the reference cell into the path. We open the shutter and keep the reference cell, that is your solvent, into the path, and we adjust the instrument to read 100. Okay, so we are teaching the instrument to read 0 and 100. 0 means no light should pass, and 100 means maximum light. Your reading should not be more than 100. If you are getting more than 100 reading, means that is a deviation to BS Lambert's law. Instrumental deviation or certain stray radiation may entering in your device. So you should play between 0 and 100. Now you replace the solvent cuvette, that is the reference cuvette, and you place your sample cuvette into the path, and you measure the transmittance, or you can calculate the absorbance. So three steps are involved: measurement of 0, measurement of 100, and measurement of absorption of your sample. So during this three step, your system should be stable. Once when you are adjusting 100, the source was stable. So as you keep the sample, the illumination intensities of source or detector changes, and it may give result more than 100 or less than some desired quantities. Okay, so this is deviation. So this can be overcome by using the double beam instrument. Single beam instrument, no doubt they are cheaper, but they should have the stable source and stable detector. Then and then only they can be used. So advantages of single beam instrument: these are simple in construction, easy to use and economical. So what is there in the double beam instrument? You just see this double beam instrument now. So double beam, the name itself implies basic functioning. There is a two cuvettes. In one cuvette, always a reference is kept. In another cuvette, a sample is kept. And the radiation are splitted by using a certain mechanism. The beam is splitted in two parts. One beam is continuously passing through the reference, and one beam is passing through the sample. So whatever effect of the reference or solvent is there, that is continuously attenuated. Okay, the old instrument uses the rotating mirror, half slave rotating mirror. Okay, half is mirror and half is your grid. So the radiation will be getting divided in two parts. One part is continuously passing through your reference and another is passing through your sample. Then this reaches to the detector, where automatically the effect of your reference is attenuated for the sample response, then amplified. You will get the pure response of your sample without any interference of your reference. So such type of the instrument has the advantage that it facilitates rapid scanning over the wavelength range, because in single beam instrument you need to adjust 0 and 100 at every wavelength manually. Here monochromators can be used, and they will automatically scan the wavelength range. Fluctuation to the radiation source are minimized. It does not require adjustment of the transmittance to 0 and 100 at each wavelength. It gives ratio of intensities of sample and reference beam simultaneously. So within a small period of time, you can complete your scanning process. So this is all about the instrumentation. So now the application part we have studied in the previous lecture also. Here some application part is there, that is a spectrophotometric titration. single component analysis and multi-component analysis. You can separately see the videos which are available for spectrophotometric titration and videos available for single component and multi-component analysis. See you all. See you in the next lecture. Happy learning. Bye friends.